What's up, guys? This is Adi from Gate 7 International, and here we are. It is the first deep dive of the summer of 2024. It is deep dive season, boys and girls. We are excited to be back. And this time, we are really excited to introduce the latest center mid that will be joining the club. This is Dani Garcia, and we're going to jump into that very shortly. If you haven't done so already, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. You can join the Patreon group and get early access to these scouting reports. So you can get access to them before the player is announced, which is usually when we release the reports. And you can join the expanded content tier for that. So if you want early access to everything, or if you just want to join the WhatsApp group, check it out at www.patreon.com/Gate7 International. Now, let's get started, boys and girls. We are going to talk about Dani Garcia, 34-year-old right-footed center mid, defensive mid from Athletic Bilbao. He sits at 5'11", which is 180 centimeters, and 81 kilos, which is almost 180 pounds. So in our first deep dive of the summer, we're reviewing this veteran to see kind of where he will fit in the grand scheme of things when it comes to Olympiacos. And as Olympiacos is looking to replace the veteran presence of Iborra, we're looking at the skill sets that this guy has to offer. He's a familiar face to Jose Luis Mendilibar, given that he played for Aibar while Mendilibar was coaching there. Garcia has played most of his career there before he made his move over to Athletic Bilbao for the past 6 seasons. He's played primarily as a defensive midfielder, does get somewhat further up the pitch here and there, but the older he's gotten, the less ground he covers and the less he's able to play, especially full 90s. He is a competent ball carrier that can move the ball around very decently. The profile isn't anything spectacular, nothing unique or even game breaking. Solid center of gravity, one touch pass and move, above average in that respect, especially short distances. Not incredibly agile, not really very quick in acceleration, but he's very aggressive. But we're going to obviously take a look at the deeper context of this player, which we're going to get into in just a moment. Now, guys, just a quick note, since the sample size from this past season, the 23-24 season, is not really anything incredible, um, we had to go back and take the data set, which was from the season before, the 22-23 season. I'm still going to draw on footage that I watched from this season as well as previous seasons, but the data set that we're using is actually from 2 seasons ago, because this season there really wasn't enough for us to get a really good sample and something that was really reflective of what he's done in his career. So we're going to use the 22-23 data set, but I will draw on things that I saw, of course, as I watched the film of him during the course of this scouting report. Now, let's get to it as we always do. For those of you that don't remember, I get started with goal creation and offensive statistics. I will then go into build up and possession, and I will close it out with some defensive attributes. So, looking at goal threat, we really do not have much to say here regarding his goal threat, and goal creation data is going to be at the very bottom of the chart. If you're looking at the chart right now, even in this player's prime, there's very minimal goal threat at best. Opportunity types are pretty inconsistent, as well as the opportunity frequency. In his most recent season, where he played in a primarily substitute role, he would come in, get further forward, rip off some shots from distance. There's a reason why I probably could only find one goal in the past few seasons. And that's because at best we can expect him to get opportunities from distance, even if he's making his way into the penalty area. I I do I do expect that he'll be afforded more opportunities to get forward while he's in Greece, especially considering that we're more possession dominant. But I'm not expecting him to get too many opportunities in front of the net. That's just how it is. As far as assist creation is concerned, there again weren't too many occasions where he was assisting goals. It's a very small sample of assists, and all of them were of a very similar context. Garcia had the ball, and either a winger or forward is going in stride, and he's launching the ball very long distance over the defender's head to the runner. And they would usually score off the opportunity if they were able to get their foot on it. So outside of those assists, the only other types of shot opportunities that he created came off of rebounds or balls that he would win in and around the penalty area. So in that context, he's getting the ball, one touching it, usually to somebody that's a little bit wider from him from the central area, both inside and outside of the box in this context. But no clear 1v1s or other brilliant ways to manufacture opportunities. He'll create one opportunity here and there, and it's entirely context driven, where he really needs to be in the right place at the right time. So I am not expecting anything from this guy in regards to goal creation. Now, as far as passing and build-up is concerned, Danny Garcia's role in build-up is dictated by how he is played in the tactical setup. Normally, Danny sits deeper, plays as a defensive mid. He's very aggressive and does work to help kickstart possession out of the back. But in previous seasons and in his prime, we do see similar numbers in terms of his volume of passes, build-up, and passes into the final third. And we can see most of our build-up stats here in that very top third of the chart here. So we saw a little more activity in the final third, and it's not incredibly valuable insight for the current season, at least, considering how little minutes he played. His time was sporadic. He generally was able to run forward more and with more energy when he played for 20 to 30 minutes at a time. Outside of the once a game long pass to unlock a runner, what we're going to get from Danny Garcia is a veteran ball handler that will generally play what's in front of him. This means you should expect plenty of lateral balls and balls backwards. I know that's going to piss some of you off, but he has no problem presenting himself as an option. And then when he's playing in a non-six role, he does seem to make an effort to move into some open lanes, especially in between midfielders. As possession phases continue, he's not an engine of possession, but especially in short areas, he does not really give the ball away. So you can count on him to help maintain possession, distribute, maybe even calm things down. As I mentioned just moments ago, he does have the occasional long ball that he will connect with here and there. He can pick the passes out in terms of those long ball situations, but they don't connect very often. So don't expect a lot of explosive runs for him in possession. His pass accuracy is usually in the low 80th percentile. We don't see him give the ball away too much, especially if he's focusing on the short passes within that 5-meter area. The times he loses the ball really comes in the long balls. Since he's not playing a whole lot of full 90-minute performances, his 2 to 4 attempts, especially if he misses them, the long ball attempts, they will weigh down his overall pass accuracy. So he's a guy that's averaging 33, 37 passes a match. So if he mishits 2, 4 of them, and they're all the long balls, of course, that's going to weigh down his pass possession. So just a little bit of context there. Anyway, he's very competent, 1-2 touch, pass and move. Rarely see him give the ball away in the short pass circumstances. Doesn't take too many risks outside of those downfield balls we talked about. So very reliable in possession. And for a player that we're looking for experience from, it's not necessarily a bad set of traits to have as far as the build-up characteristics are concerned. Now, looking on the defensive side of things, Danny Garcia is a bit of an animal. I mean, he goes hard into a lot of these challenges. Last season, probably because he wasn't playing as many minutes, he was doing a bit more on the offensive side of things. But I mean, he would get into a ton of these defensive duels. He's not the quickest player, so when he loses the ball, he just fouls the guy that's in front of him usually, instead of letting them get by him. Very physical when he's closing a player in, and if I had to reference a player in the Greek Super League this past season that kind of, like, embodies what I see in him, it's Nordin Amrabat, the Ike winger. Guy was strong, physical, and he just, like, would use his hands constantly in a way that pissed us all off against anyone he came up against. Positionally, I think he's pretty good as well. I mean, constantly, he's in the top of the league in terms of interceptions, and you can see that here as well. Like I said, he's not super quick, but he's great at covering lanes, more than adequate in anticipating opponents' movements. I especially saw value in him in the counter press, guarding against the counter. More than a couple of times, I saw him kind of stifling a counter and against Athletic Bilbao, and it's a trait that we really, really need at this club because we saw how many times we would get sucked too far forward and we could get hit on the counter, especially in Greece. So, very valuable trade for him to have, especially for us in the Greek league. I also have to say I appreciate how he throws himself in front of the ball in our defensive third and in the penalty area. He has a solid number of block shots and efforts in preventing things getting to the goalkeeper that we just didn't see enough of, except for in the Conference League final during this season. He's not a tall guy, but for his size, he's adequate in the air. This past season, he did not do amazingly in the air at all, but maybe that's a result of the inconsistent minutes. But you look at the chart here, 22-23 season, and he's actually surprisingly decent in aerial duels, and we see that throughout his career. And much of this based on the individual duels that I saw, it's how physical he's getting in the man marking, which can be a double-edged sword because it can invite foul trouble. But overall, I mean, I was actually impressed and surprised at how decent he was in the air for the most part. Again, we're excluding last season, which you guys don't see the data for that here, but his aerial duel capabilities is kind of similar to everything that you see on the chart that's right here currently. Now, up next, for those of you that are not aware, this is the part where we kind of do a comparison. And for this comparison, I chose Vicente Iborra. So the reason I chose Iborra is just simply because Iborra's on his way out. We know that he's not going to be in Greece. He wants to retire at his at the club that started all for him. So we're really looking to see if we're getting a proper replacement for Iborra's veteran presence. And in some ways, we are, but in other ways, we're not. Now, for those of you, and it's your first time looking at this, this is a radar chart. We have two webs superimposed on each other. The red web is Vicente Iborra. The blue web is Dani Garcia. And we have the individual data points labeled at each point, but then the way they're proportioned on top of each other is as their percentiles in the leagues. So the way the plots are done, the more the data point reaches out to the end or to the edge, you can say, the closer it is to the 100th percentile. So that's just measuring how they rank in each one of their separate leagues. So let's talk about ability. Unsurprisingly, when we're comparing Iborra in aerial ability, he outshines Garcia. I guess we can expect that from a player that's just so much taller. Iborra also had a higher level of interceptions and passing volume. Now, the pass volume part of it, okay, that's understandable. I will expect that Garcia's stats in regarding to possession volume will get an uptick in Greece because we're on the offensive side of things and we're playing against teams who are going to be low blocking us considerably. So he will be spending more time on the ball. That's a reasonable thing for us to expect. The differences in most of the data points are very small in terms of the offensive side of things. So I think we'll see similar production from Garcia as we're seeing here from Vicente Iborra in Greece. Now, one thing I do not think will translate is goal contribution, or in this case, the expected goal contributions that we see there. Iborra's sheer size gave him plenty of opportunities in the penalty area, whether it's off of crosses or set pieces. Garcia does not have that same effectiveness. I know I talked to you guys about him being adequate in the air and some of these aerial duels, but that wasn't in the penalty area or the opponent's penalty area, I should say. So I'm not expecting that same effectiveness in that respect. The second thing, and it's the first time I think I've used such an intangible like this in a deep dive, but I don't see the same aura, if you guys will, around Garcia as I did around Iborra. What do I mean by that? Iborra seemed to have this very calming presence, and it exuded confidence, and you could see it with the players around him. You could feel that as you were watching the games. I'm not sure I feel that in these games I'm watching with Garcia. And he's functional in a similar manner with the ball at his feet. He just has a bit more aggressive tone than Iborra did, especially when he's closing players down. S and the context for this could be just completely different than Iborra at Olympiacos. Um, Iborra was a multiple-time Europa League winner. Garcia is not. Iborra, by the end of the season, was playing an incredibly important role and in a way kind of exemplified a leadership role here. I'm not sure Garcia will have that same impact. Again, I just I didn't get that feeling when I was watching him at Bilbao. Now, the context could change when he comes to Olympiacos. It could be entirely different, and he could have that calming aura, that calming effect. I just did not feel it when I was watching the game. And I'm sorry about that intangible. I don't usually like to use those in these, but it's just one of those scenarios where I'm not getting that from this player in the same way I was with Iborra. It in the end, though, guys, the differences between the 2 players are not huge. I'm not necessarily convinced that Garcia is an upgrade over Iborra, but he's ticking a lot of the boxes that we seem to care about. The one unknown, will be the type of locker room presence that he has compared to a guy like Iborra. And the way I kind of answer this to myself is if he was functional in a veteran capacity under Ernesto Valverde over at Bilbao, that kind of tells me everything I need to know about the player in a way. If that makes sense to you guys. Now, we're going to go ahead and stroll over to the very end of the scouting report. And again, for those of you, if this is your first time listening to a scouting report, your first deep dive summer, as I like to say, it's time for the verdict. It's time for my judgment on this player just based on what I've seen. And boys and girls, I'm going to start by reiterating what I just said. If he is functional enough to operate under the context, the situation, the demands of a coach like Ernesto Valverde, then he must have something to offer us. By no means do I personally think this is an upgrade over Iborra, but he does check the boxes and he provides us some depth. And I'll say this, look, while I'm satisfied with this move, especially on a free, I will not be satisfied if it's the only midfielder we bring in this summer. We've got Chiquinho Jeze. Those are our starters. Those are the starters in the deeper midfielder context. But while Garcia is a great veteran option to have next to them in some games, I don't want to see him being the go-to option. He can't be. We need a real number 6. We need a day in, day out number 6. An Uros Racic type of player who we've been linked to from Sassuolo. We get a guy like Racic in and we get Garcia. We renew Horta. I'm feeling really good about this midfield. I'm feeling over the moon about this midfield. Now, as I said about Iborra last summer when I did the scouting report on him, this move cannot be completely evaluated until we see who else is brought in. Standalone, I give the move a thumbs up. Just based on the expectation that he's a depth option, he'll replace in some capacity the veteran presence that we lost from Iborra. He can give a break to a guy like Santiago Jeze when he needs a break. If we're judging it by that, it's a thumbs up. He's also played under Mendilibar before, which I talked about at the beginning of the scouting report. So maybe I expect that has something to do with the interest in the move, let alone him coming here. But if we bring in Racic, then the move looks better to me. We're pretty much covered in the midfield. I think as these things kind of develop, we're going to get a better sense of what Mendilibar actually wants in this squad. But for sure, we know he needs a veteran presence. He's looking at a guy that he had before, which makes sense. We talked about this with Diego Martinez. Coaches like to have some veteran players, and they like having players that they know they can communicate through, and they know will understand the wants that they have. So the move, in all respects, it makes sense. I hope you guys enjoyed the deep dive. We have a long summer and potentially a number of other moves to make, and I am going to be here for every single one of them. We really need to do the right business this summer, guys. We have the opportunity to build as a club off of the historic season we just had. And it's so important. It is so important that we do this correctly because we have a platform now that can lift us off into a different stratosphere in terms of status for this club. But if we make the same mistakes that we've made the last couple of years, if we continue to do business that we've been doing it, which put us into the situation right before Mendelibar came, then we could see all this great work that was done, the salvaging of the disaster that was this season, go completely to waste. And none of us want to see that. We want to see us build off of this success, not just be in the Europa League, but push into the Europa League. We are now defending Conference League champions. We have to show something in the Europa League to show everyone that this is Olympiacos and we are a European side and we deserve to be in these competitions. We got a long way to go, but a signing like Garcia for me is a great step into solidifying and replacing what we're losing, so that we can build and move forward with the squad. I'm Adi, guys. This is Gate 7 International by the fans for the fans. Thank you for joining us. Again, join Patreon if you want to get early access to these scouting reports, and we'll see you next time.